Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's your host, Lee. Right off the jump, we're going to talk about a house cleaning item, which is folks asking where to recommend stuff. Um, guys, I what I do for organization's sake, the pinned comment is where you guys can suggest stuff. I read through it, and here I am responding. And yeah, that's that. It's so that when I'm looking back, it's very easy to find things. You folks on Patreon, I'm also going to be looking at the YouTube pinned comment just so that I'm not all over the world. It's a lot, guys. And as you guys know, I have multiple channels, which doesn't make life any easier when it comes to like bouncing around for little stuff, right? See all the multiple channels I got. It's a lot.
Are
I
you
don't
ready?
regret having multiple channels. I'm just saying, like, this is what I have going on. So this is why I have this process. So today's video, we are jumping into the unique horror of each greater demon. I got a bunch of tabs loaded up. I have my Warhammer notes. Um, just added some stuff. We covered our orc video. And just let you know what's in the pipeline. This is not in the order, just letting you guys know the pipeline of things that I'm currently interested in. We got I want to by the way, I didn't actually watch this video, even though the red arrows all the way. I was just bouncing around just so I could see how entertaining it is. Audio stuff is very important to me when I'm trying to pick something. So, anyways, so we're gonna do Major Kill. I've heard the pros and cons of Major Kill, but I don't think like y'all. I think like a orc, bruh. So like, I like Major Kill. React to Major Kill. Simple. So we're gonna check out this guy whose orc name I can't pronounce, but I know who we're talking about. He's like this badass orc that wanted to rule the galaxy and stuff like that, and get to the human, they get to the emperor basically. I think that's what he was trying to do. 10 weapons that are needlessly dark. Westhammer has a lot of topics that got my attention. Surprisingly, my algorithm keeps showing me more things from Westhammer than Bricky. Are orcs superior to humans? I'm also interested in that. And the insanity of each orc explained, I'm interested in that. There's a lot of orc stuff I'm interested in. From an algorithm point of view and just nurturing a community, I don't want to saturate you guys with back to back orc videos. Oh, our chaos god's really good, guys. I'm gonna open that later. So there's plenty of content, man. So I'm just going to chaos demon summoning. God dang, so much things that I'm interested in right now. So we're just gonna cover it. We're just gonna get to it. So, anyways, if you're here for orcs, you already know that Lee gonna keep doing that. And if you're not really into orcs, then you can at least know that I'm gonna be touching on other things that catch my attention. Very, very biased towards orcs. So it's like a Primarch, a random guy, and like two orc videos. There's like two orc videos right now for like every other stuff. But I don't think anyone's actually mad. But I am conscious. Perturabo. Hold on. I am conscious of not alienating people, even though this is my channel. I'm here for the community. It's a weird thing as a YouTuber. I actually was interested in learning more about Perturabo. I feel like the first video I watched didn't do justice based on what you guys commented. So, anyways, that's a long intro. Let us jump into it. Man, we got so much gold to react to as a community. Let's do it.
No secret that space is actually chock full of demons. Well, at least that's how it is in Warhammer 40k. The verdict is still out there on whether or not that's true in real life. And out of all of the terrifying demonic entities that prowl the realm of chaos and frequently blight our universe with the sin of their existence, four stand apart from the rest. As beings of apocalyptic might, malevolent entities that are so dangerous, their existence has to be kept a closely guarded secret by the holy ordos of the Inquisition. Now, I speak, of course, of greater demons, like the Bloodthirsters of Khorne, or the
Oh,
Avatars of Hatred, existing only
avatars of
to spill
hatred.
blood and take skulls. The Keepers of Secrets, the embodiment of seductive excess, repugnant creatures that delight in inflicting untold agony on mortals. There's the Great Unclean Ones, the
Victory.
Avatars of Rot
Oh,
and
so it's not.
Entropy,
So
and
it's not
massive,
just the
bloated
four.
monstrosities teeming with every disease, virus, and parasite known to man. And finally, there's the Lords of Change, masters of
Wow.
sorcery in all its forms, and duplicitous agents of change whose mere presence can fracture minds and send mortals reeling into the oblivion of insanity. But what are the greater demons all about? What is their purpose, and what role do they fill within the
You know what impresses me the most about Warhammer? This is as an aspiring writer myself for those that are new here. It's how abstract certain things are, like the powers of these demons. Yet they have regular homies with guns in the same universe. It's like, how do they overlap and such? How does regular people fight these kinds of things? It's actually a rhetorical question. You can still explain. But I'm just saying, like, I'm just mind blown that the power difference or the gap exists. But then I shouldn't be so shocked. Sometimes you come across these OP beings in DC and Marvel, but I don't know what it is. But in the little exposure that I have with Warhammer, I feel the gap between the strongest and weakest person is beyond just the fact that this person can throw an asteroid or punch an asteroid and you can't. The psychic, the magic, the abstractness of it. You know how they just explain coming here and warping a battlefield and stuff. Like, how do you fight that? It's crazy that all of this can exist in the same universe and make sense.
Hierarchy of chaos. And potentially, most importantly, which one of these dudes is the strongest? Well, today we're going to be getting into that and a whole lot more. But first, a quick shout out to this video's sponsor, and then we're going to dive headfirst into the grimdark. If you somehow haven't heard of it, Tacticus is the definitive tactile mobile game for Warhammer 40,000 fans that allows you to get your Warhammer fix anytime, anywhere, in fast-paced PvE campaigns, tightly competitive PvP battles, and also massively collaborative boss fights under your guild banner. It's hard to believe it's already been a year since Tacticus first became available, and it's impressive to see just how much the game has changed since launch. Snowprint Studios has launched tons of fresh and exciting content, including new features, game modes, challenging events, and at this point, over 50
I wonder
champions
if I was
and 13
interested.
playable
There
factions.
was something
I asked the devs what they
I don't
believed
remember
was
if I
the number one
downloaded it.
reason Tacticus has been such a lasting success, and they told me it was due to the constant support and feedback of their passionate community. And to thank them, they're planning a huge anniversary celebration for the players. In this event, the new Tyranid threat has emerged, and the Space Marines must answer the call to combat the endless swarm. Muster your champions and join Tacticus for a week of challenging battles, exciting rewards, and not to mention tons of loot. The special anniversary event starts on August 13th and runs until August 19th. It's the perfect time for all Warhammer 40,000 fans to enter the tactical battlefields of the Grimdark. There's going to be week-long exclusive calendar offers and a mighty fight against Tyranids during special recurring events.
Yeah, my bad. I'm so quiet on these parts. I can't skip it because this is how this man gets his revenue and such. It's his ad, whatever. People give a big deal about it.
There's never been a
I
better
should have
time
even
to start
paused it.
playing
It just
Warhammer
is
40,000
whatever.
Tacticus, and you can do so for free by downloading it from the App Store, Google Play, or the Samsung Galaxy Store.
I actually did
Click
look
on
at
the
it
link
just
in the
now.
description of this video to start playing for free today. Big thanks to Warhammer Tacticus for sponsoring this video.
Yeah.
Among the
Warhammer
teeming masses of
Tacticus.
demonic entities that prowl the realm of chaos, none are as feared as those the faithful refer to as greater demons. These are demonic
demons.
entities of supreme ability, each a reflection of their patron god and an unholy master of corruption. They are the generals and lieutenants of chaos, the supreme commanders of its
Oh,
demonic
that's
legions, and
disgusting.
the will of the
Jeez.
chaos gods given form. Although
The
their
will of the
manifestations
chaos
are
gods given
thankfully
form.
rare, when they do deign to blight the physical universe with their presence, rampant destruction and untold levels of corruption are always left in their blazing wakes. They are some of the most powerful combatants ever documented, and come in 4 distinct forms: the endless rage of the Bloodthirsters, who can cleave tanks in
Endless
twain
rage,
and rip
Bloodthirster.
fortresses open with a single swing of their massive axes. The towering Great Unclean Ones, avatars
Ugh.
of filth and disease that act
Ugh.
as a vector for every known pathogen in the universe. The beguiling
That's the kind of shit I'm talking about, fam. Niggas. Sorry. I ain't trying to drop the N word on y'all people, man. I don't really know who my audience is here, so every now and then, I kind of slip up, but I don't know how much of y'all is ready for that. When you just drop it at, whoa, snap. But what I'm trying to say is, Yeah, just drop a disease as a being to fight. I remember there was these guys wearing plague masks. I feel like maybe that's why they do that.
And seductive keepers of secrets that are
Crazy.
faster than the human eye can track and
See
delight
what I'm
in the
talking about?
suffering and anguish they inflict upon mortals. Or the limitless destructive
A
sorceries
whole
of
bunch
the
of
impossibly
Barry
intelligent
Allens.
Lords of Change. These are entities that the mortal mind was not designed to comprehend.
That's what I'm
Their
talking about.
existence is something that we're not truly capable of processing.
That's what I'm talking about. How
In
you
fact,
fight them then?
when we witness them in the artwork of Warhammer 40k, the form we see is our mind trying to make sense of the unexplainable, to give shape to something that is inherently shapeless. The simple act
Inherently
of seeing them with our mortal eyes is a subconscious defense mechanism of the human psyche. It
That makes
is
sense.
to generate in our mind an image that, although admittedly horrifying, is grounded within the laws of our universe.
That makes
And thus
sense.
our mind is allowed to accept its existence without fracturing under the sheer impossibility of the greater demon's truth. Like all demons, they
That makes
are
sense.
creatures of the warp, entities made not of flesh and bone and tangible substance, but energy and emotion. For as much as our mind wants to interpret something like a bloodthirster as a towering humanoid combatant that rampages across the battlefield, it's more accurate to think of them as literally the emotion of rage given sentience. Greater demons themselves are granted a much greater amount of freedom than the lesser demons beneath them. It's true that they are each a manifestation of the god that created them, but they all possess a will that is uniquely their own.
Oh,
They
cool.
each have their own quirks,
Reminds me of
nuances,
Angels.
aspirations, and
The homie Lucifer
oftentimes
was
their
like, "Nah, I'm
ambition
not
can
gonna
give
follow
way
y'all."
to desires that directly contradict the plans of their patron deity. Many more
Cool.
have even demonstrated particularly remarkable skills and abilities that their god in question may not even be capable of. Two good examples of this come in the form of two different Lords of Change, as in Karos Fate Weaver, traditionally seen as the most exalted of Lords of Change, has the ability to see into the future, is something that Tzeentch himself has struggled with. Although I will admit that Karos doesn't see only one definitive future, but the infinite possible futures as well, something that has caused him to go insane even by demonic standards. Thus, making sense of his ramblings is a full-time job for a whole host of other Lords of Change. There is another Lord of Change known as, and I'm just gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna butcher my way through this, Ateos Raukiers, who is said to be so unbelievably powerful that Tzeentch keeps him chained up at all times, only deploying him when absolutely necessary, as the power that he wields is something that even a chaos god is afraid of. Although we refer to them as greater demons,
Let
as
me run
in
that back.
they
Let me
are
run that
more
back. Let me
exalted
run
than
that
the lesser
back.
demons, that Tzeentch. There is another Lord of Change known as, and I'm just gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna butcher my way through this, Ateos Raukiers, who is said to be so unbelievably powerful that Tzeentch keeps him chained up at all times, only deploying him when absolutely necessary, as the power that he wields is something that even a chaos god is afraid of.
That's
Although we
cool.
refer to them as greater demons, as
You gotta imagine how like OP and how cool and how different that is. You're an all-powerful patron, you know? It's like Zeus having Hercules locked up, and then it's like, "Oh, snap, the Titans have showed up, so I'm gonna need the homie Hercules," and then he releases Hercules, and then a lot ties him up again. I already know that the binding Hercules is difficult in itself, so I don't know, cosmic chains, something like that. That's cool, man.
in they are more exalted than the lesser demons beneath them. This title really doesn't do justice to just how powerful these malignant entities truly are. A greater demon is so much more than simply a more powerful demon. Most of them are worshipped as gods in their own right by cults and cultures throughout time and space. The Bloodthirsters have been depicted as gods of war by warrior
Apologies, you won't see me on my phone anymore. My wife was texting me, and I just had to deal with that. Unless she texts again, it was emergency. But like, these times when I'm by myself, I can't tell you that I could have a large interrupted time outside all the other stuff that I record. So I greatly apologize. But I'm done now.
in they are more exalted than the lesser demons beneath them. This title really doesn't do justice to just how powerful these malignant entities truly are. A greater demon is so much more than simply a more powerful demon. Most of them are worshipped as gods in their own right
So they're
by
all
cults and
many
cultures
are
throughout
worshipped as
time and
gods.
space. The Bloodthirsters have been depicted as gods of war by warrior cults
Bloodthirsters.
across time. Some of these cultures may have viewed them as honorable patriarchs of martial prowess, and
Wow.
others may have seen them as insidious entities that led the cult to salvation through bloodshed. There's even
Wow.
been ancient depictions
It's amazing that there are people in this world that would worship these greater demons because they represent something that they value, you know? For me, I can think of so my base religion would be Christianity. What I practice, I'm very open-minded. I don't really need to dive into what I actually believe. I'm on a path to figuring that out. Make a long story short. But people may worship things that we would call demons or idols. But, you know, to them, they're not demons, these are gods. This is gods. This is a god I believe in. But if they have power and it's not the one, let's just say the emperor of mankind, that's a demon, it's blasphemy. You know what I mean? That's why I'm so like this is I love this part. I love this part. I love the theology that we get. It's probably going to be my favorite aspect of Warhammer, aside from like picking races and stuff like that, it's the theology aspect. And I actually just love theology. I'm very interested in Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, you know, whatever, you know, Greek mythologies. By saying Greek mythologies, now that could be offensive if you happen to believe in those things. But the point is, I like the lore of religion and things that these people believe in. It's not about whether I think it's true or not. It's just the information is fascinating. It's like, wow, that's what you guys believe. Cool. Tell me more without being
of
facetious.
bovine-faced keepers of secrets, with massively exaggerated and curvaceous physical features that have been documented in cave paintings from ancient long-dead societies,
I
and
already
were
know which
believed
demon
by
I would
some to
follow.
have been worshipped as a
Not
form
this
of
one though.
fertility
I'm just
goddess.
saying.
Even in the grimdark
On the
future, there
subject.
are countless underground cults that have dedicated the entirety of their existence to the worship and following of a single greater demon. Although each of the four greater demons
Fascinating.
are a truly horrifying foe to face in battle, their true terror is not just in their destructive nature, but in their ability to corrupt the masses, to spread their vile messages of hatred, rot, excess, and deceit, to lay low the foundations of mankind, not only through physical
I think I am late on this, but I get mixed up between him talking about the four greater demons or like demons in general. So just so that I don't spend the whole video lost, please bear with me. Oh my god. All the nonsense I gotta read. I'm also interested in just regular military stuff. Um, Fighting the Houthis to see what's going on over there, but that's gonna be later. Uh, Warhammer, Warhammer. Isayish is the one I remember the most. For greater. No, I'm just gonna do Warhammer 40k greater demons and see what it says. Oh, and they spell demons differently. That's also something. Who are they? I want to see if it says it's four, so that helps me. Greater demons serve as emissaries of the ruinous powers of chaos to chaos sources. They no, this is gonna be better. Are powerful direct embodiments of the chaos gods. Okay, okay. There is the four chaos gods, and that's why I was thinking of Slaanesh. That's the name I remember the most. Khorne, Nurgle, and Tzeentch. I can't say that. Okay, so they are the chaos gods, and then we have greater demons who are under those gods. What confused me is I could have sworn I just heard this guy say four greater demons. I keep seeing these images, so it made me think of the chaos gods. But that's not the same thing.
countless underground cults that have dedicated the entirety of their existence to the worship and following of a single greater demon. Although each of the four greater demons are a
See,
truly
four
horrifying
greater
foe to face in
demons, but those
battle,
aren't the same thing as
their
the
true
four
terror
greater
is not
gods.
just in their
Chaos gods.
destructive nature, but in their ability to corrupt the masses, to spread their vile messages of hatred, rot, excess, and deceit, to lay low the foundations.
This is the last time well, I'm not gonna lie to you. This is not gonna be the last time I pause. I just want to make sure I understand things. Is the four chaos gods the same as greater demons? No, the four chaos gods, Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, Slaanesh, are not the same as greater demons. They're distinct warp entities. Okay, 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 okay. If this video doesn't explain, I just need to know that where did this four come from? It just happens to be four. It's just sheer irony.
Of
And if I'm
mankind,
dumb, my
not
bad,
only through
guys.
physical violence, but by twisting the hearts and minds of mortals against each other. Each and every one of them has a role to play within the great game, and only the truly ignorant and foolish would ever enter into a pact with such a malignant abomination. Now that we know a bit more about what a greater demon is, let's talk about all four of them in greater detail, and we'll start with the Bloodthirsters of
I'm
Khorne.
gonna get the answer.
Out of all the demonic
Bloodthirsters
servants of the Blood
Khorne.
God, none are as exalted as the Bloodthirsters, for they are rage and slaughter
Bloodthirsters.
given form. The unholy
Bloodthirsters.
Khorne. Bloodthirsters of Khorne. Bloodthirsters of Khorne. Bloodthirsters of Khorne. I see. These are greater demons that are under Khorne, a chaos god. I know you guys are like, Lee, this is very simple to understand. This is the part where I'm going to be like, yo, locked in. Okay.
avatars of Khorne's infinite hatred, and are by far the most straightforward of all of the demons that we're going to be talking
Demons
about in this
under
video.
Khorne.
They exist purely for war. Their only goal, to drown the worlds of our galaxy in figurative and sometimes literal oceans of blood. Wherever the blood gods chosen go, they infect the population with a sickness of slaughter. Their hatred a disease that spreads with a malevolent sentience so effective it would make Khorne's brother Nurgle, the Lord of Plagues, envious. At his core, Khorne is a warrior god, and none better
Khorne
encapsulate
is a
his
warrior
essence
god.
more so than the Bloodthirsters, entities that quake the universe under the weight of their rage. They are the blood god's emissaries who spread his unholy message
blood
of
god.
unfettered rage, not with words, but through the divine instruments of sword, axe, and whip. Every
Sword,
weapon
axe,
stroke,
and whip.
every twist of the blade sends a reverberating message across space and time, a simple yet powerful proclamation of their purpose. Blood for the
Love
blood
it.
god, skulls
Blood for the
the
blood
skull
god.
throne. The Bloodthirsters are Khorne's
That was in 100 Girlfriends season 2 episode 11 when they said blood for the blood mom, and people were like, that's a 40k reference. I got it now. That's awesome. That's awesome. Watch the anime. It's pretty dope. We react to it on your boy Rocklee.
generals and commanders, leaders of his vast horde of bloodthirsty demons, and each one is a towering monster clad in blood-drenched brass armor. They wield titanic melee weapons that have been infused with demonic hatred and hunger for the blood of mortals, many of which are capable of flight, as they are also draped in enormous leathery bat wings. These bloodthirsters soar through the skies in pursuit of worthy prey, kept aloft by air currents that have been superheated by their own hatred. They
What?
are utterly relentless in the
What?
pursuit of single-minded violence, and thus are unshackled from the weaknesses of doubt, mercy, and compassion. They are some of the strongest
Unshackled?
singular melee combatants that have ever been
I don't know where Wes Hammer gets his verbiage from, but that's another thing I love about Warhammer, and I wish I can write like these people. They're unshackled. What was that phrase they use? It's a beautiful phrase. Single-minded violence, and thus are unshackled from the weaknesses
doubt,
of
mercy,
doubt,
and compassion.
mercy, and compassion. So I'm reading a book called The Daily Stoic. I highly recommend it. It's just to reinforce your mind, help manage your emotions, etc., etc. I'm literally on this journey to become a better person between the weight loss, the boxing. Yeah, I'm doing all right, but you can't see the guns. Yeah, where are we? Whatever. I don't think I'm doing justice here. The Daily Stoic, and one of it talked about desiring less allowed you to be freer. The less things you desire, the more free you are. So it just blows my mind how you can be free from an evil perspective and then free from a good perspective. Like freedom in itself is not necessarily a good or a bad thing for others, you know? That's why we have, of course, these things make sense, like a Bill of Rights, or you have freedom of speech as long as it doesn't hurt others. You know what I mean? You can't say the roof is on fire on a plane. You can't say that. Your freedom of speech intrudes on the right of others. So it's been right in front of me in all this time. So, anyways, to hear this concept or read this concept, I love theology, I love philosophy, that they are free. These demons are so free, man. They're not shackled by much. And they can just pursue their love of killing. Because, I might want to curse y'all out every now and then. Every now and then, someone pisses me off in the comment section. But I am not free from the repercussions of you guys unfollowing. I'm not free from the consequences of tarnishing my brand. There are people that rely on me for income. I run multiple channels as editors who rely on, the effect on this of this video. So I am not free. And I love the concept of freedom and what it means to different people. And sometimes in your pursuit of freedom, you find yourself shackled once again. I started the YouTube so I could become free, but now I'm a slave to the goddamn algorithm. I can't even take a week off because I might fall off the Warhammer algorithm with y'all. So now I gotta keep it up. The moment I hit gold and y'all was vibing with this content, I was like, yo, I gotta put out a Warhammer video like 3 times a week. Minimum. You know, I'm not hating, guys. I'm not stressed out. Like, don't take this as, oh my God, Lee doesn't want to do Warhammer. That's not what I'm saying, but it's just very profound to think about your pursuit of freedom, what it means. And in your very pursuit of freedom, you could find yourself shackled to something else? Anyways, I ranted on something totally unrelated, but I hope for anyone that listened, you could see what I appreciate about Warhammer and videos like this. Content like this, not even if it was just Warhammer. Any content that gets me to think like this, I love it.
They are some of the strongest singular melee combatants that have ever been documented within the grimdark future, and are an unstoppable force, destruction incarnate, and unflinching butchers of the weak. There is no reasoning with a Bloodthirster, no
Love it.
chance for a parlay.
Love
But at
it.
least with the other greater demons, they might be able to offer you something that you want in exchange for your corruption, cooperation, or alignment. Now, this is obviously a catch-22 and is a surefire path towards damnation, but the option at least exists. The only thing a
Gotta
Bloodthirster
respect
can
it.
offer anyone who would foolishly stand in their way is death in the name of Khorne. For a Bloodthirster does not see the individual. He doesn't see the merits of any given person, no matter how accomplished their deeds, no matter what contribution they have made to the universe, and no matter what they could possibly offer the Bloodthirster. To them, they are simply either a coward that needs to be culled, or a challenger to be defeated. There are several different
remind
types
me
of
of
Bloodthirsters,
orcs,
and
but
they are organized in an eightfold
demon
hierarchy
version.
of different hosts. Unfortunately, as of the time of recording this video, we've only been given insight into 4 of them. That is the first host, the Exalted Bloodthirsters, of which there are only 8 and are supposedly the mightiest of their kind. The third host, known as the Wrath of Khorne, the 6th host, the Bloodthirsters of Insensate Rage, and the 8th host, the Bloodthirsters of Unfettered Fury. These are the Bloodthirsters that most commonly wield a pair of weapons. One, the massive iconic axes of Khorne that are capable of carving a battle tank in half with a single swing, and in their
Crazy.
offhand a
How do you
vicious whip that has
parry
been
that?
studded with brass spikes and arcs across the air, cracking with the sound of thunder as the terrible lash renders entire mobs into gelatinous gore. On the other
Wow.
hand, we have the Bloodthirsters of Insensate Rage, who are potentially the most mindlessly savage of all of the Bloodthirsters, in that they are so utterly consumed within the fires of Khorne's rage that they have been rendered utterly incoherent with anger. Now, all Bloodthirsters are brutal, don't get it twisted, but whereas the other Bloodthirsters exist as a blend of brutality and technical expertise, the Bloodthirsters of Insensate Rage are like a
Look
force
at these
of nature,
things.
a hurricane of violence that is utterly unpredictable and unable to be controlled. They
I see
wield
why I like
massive
them so
two-handed
much.
axes as tall as a fortress gate and drive all those that follow them into a deranged kill frenzy. Finally, there are the Wrath of Khorne Bloodthirsters, airborne predators that scour the battlefield in search of worthy prey. Their role on the battlefield takes the form of a giant winged assassin, an arrogant hunter that seeks to humble only the worthiest of heroes.
Arrogant
From
hunter
their
who seems
vantage
to
point in the
humble the
sky,
worthiest
they
of
seek
heroes.
out enemy warlords,
What a
generals, and
line.
champions of renown, before swooping down with a single goal of butchering them in the name of the Blood God. For as terrifying as the Bloodthirsters are, the
I
next
respect they're
greater
looking
demon that
for
we're
the
going to talk
strongest.
about is the fear of death shared by all sentient creatures given form. If we were to rank the greater demons,
I don't know if it's obvious or not, but I by now totally understand the difference between a greater demon and like the gods. Like, got it.
demons in terms of which is capable of eliciting the strongest feelings of utter revulsion in mortals, the Great Unclean Ones would certainly be at the top of the list.
The
They
great
are
unclean ones.
titanic amalgamations of disease-ridden, rotten flesh, mountains of rancid blubber that are clouded by swarms of demonic flies, and whose maggot-ridden
So you wouldn't have to tell me these ones obviously come from Nurgle. That's gonna be my assumption. They come from Nurgle. They are under the chaos god Nurgle.
innards spill forward and drag through the muck and grime of the battlefield from tears and gashes in the demons' swollen bellies. They are
Ugh.
each covered in clusters of weeping pustules that incubate swarms of pestilent nurglings and chattering
Nurgle.
needle-teethed imps that erupt from the Great Unclean One's sores like a tide of leprous, disease-riddled piranhas. The combination of the Great Unclean One's physical body horror and pungent, rancid stench is so potent, it can drive all of those in its presence into madness. And despite their horrifying appearance, the Great Unclean Ones actually exhibit a strange duality that is unique to the denizens of Nurgle's garden. On one hand, they are single-handedly the most grotesque and disturbing entities that have ever
I really
blighted
wanna
our
throw up.
universe. Yet, conversely, they display a deep paternal affection for all those that follow them into battle. They are like loving parents that view each of their demonic warriors and mortal servants alike like a proud father may view their children. They take pride in the achievements of each of them and bestow upon them ever more virulent and disgusting blessings derived from the grandfather himself. When the legions of Nurgle march to wars, the war cries of the blubberous Great Unclean Ones are at odds with those displayed by other demonic generals. Whereas a Bloodthirster of Khorne may shout only incoherent ramblings that are dripping with anger and bloodlust, the Great Unclean One in turn shouts booming words of encouragement to his children, a proclamation of he and Nurgle's eternal love. There are many Great Unclean Ones that have even viewed the enemy as simply misguided, individuals that, although unfortunate they have found themselves in conflict with one another, simply need to be shown the truth, the beauty
I can't
of
stand
decay,
looking at this
an
imagery.
entropic message that the Great Unclean One and its herd of
It's
disgusting
so
followers
disgusting.
are all too happy to enforce upon
I
the
can't even.
ignorant.
I
The
can't
jovial
even.
nature of the Great Unclean One is simply a mask. They are malevolent creatures that seek to spread filth and disease across the known universe,
Look at
and
this
they do
drawings.
not take kindly
How
to their
do you
ideals
think of
of
this?
rot being rejected. To
Yeah, I
harm
reject
any of
that
the
shit.
lesser demons under his command, or reject his pestilent gifts through the
I
use of
reject that
medicine
shit.
and
Hit you with that holy
vaccines,
water.
is to twist its joy and love into a fiery paternal rage. When
Hit you
roused to
with some
fight,
bleach.
the Great Unclean One is a perplexing and terrifying sight. They are unstoppable in their advance and are seemingly immune to harm, as bullets and blades are shrugged off as if they were nothing more than bothersome insects. Despite the seeming impossibility of it, considering the minuscule legs that support the monstrosity, the Great Unclean One is said to be inhumanly fast. They charge into the enemy like an enormous fetid wrecking ball that leaves behind a trail of destruction and oozing filth. Like a rotund, leprous battering ram, the Great Unclean One wreaks havoc through the enemy lines as fortifications are smashed apart and infantry is sent flying in every direction. Their weaponry comes in the form of plague flails, filth-encrusted bile blades, and rusted doomsday bells, each of which is an unholy instrument of plague, dripping in virulent toxins, viruses, and bacteria that are so potent they can infect the atmosphere around them with pestilence. Whereas the Great Unclean One may not be as physically strong as its counterpart within the legions of Khorne, their ludicrous endurance allows them to weather the storm of an entire army. What's more, they're capable of breathing in deep the pestilent winds of the Garden of Nurgle to vomit forth psychic tides of filth, maggots, and mucus that inflict all those caught within its torrential downpour with a virulent cocktail of horrendous demonic diseases. The bodies of each of these stench lords acts kind of like a cauldron and is constantly in motion to make ever more terrifying plagues, each of which is brewed deep within their guts to perfect potency, before finally bursting forth from their bellies to spread their virulent contents in every direction. Killing such a creature is nearly an impossible task, as melee and ranged weaponry prove to be almost entirely useless against them. Blades get caught in rolls of rancid fat and weeping innards, and bolter shells detonate into clouds of pus and filth that serve only to aid the creature in its mission of spreading rot. On the
You guys gonna think I'm being dramatic? but I'm not. I actually feel sick listening and watching these images. Like, I actually feel physically sick. And I think that's a testament of how disgusting they are if you ever had to face these things. They describe soldiers like, "Oh my gosh, this is awful." What they want me to feel or what they want these soldiers to feel or any character to feel, I feel it, man. I am just uncomfortable, man.
Rare occasion
I'm
that one of
very
them is actually
uncomfortable.
brought down, the victory is
They suck the
almost
life out
always
of
cut
me.
short by the sound of the demon's immense body detonating. This comes in the form of an
This is
explosion of
definitely my
demonic
weakness.
excrement, acid, contagions,
And
and
it still
seemingly
keeps
countless
going.
other demonic parasitic life forms that have been gestating within its bulk. The fear that is generated by the Great Unclean Ones comes by just how utterly repulsive and disgusting they are.
I know, I get
But
it.
the next demon we're going to talk
Let's
about on this
talk.
list
Salish
goes in the
people?
complete opposite direction
A
and
greater
is
demon under
equally as
Salish.
terrifying.
I'm
Out
assuming.
of all of the greater demons, the Keeper of Secrets is by far the most perplexing and confusing.
Oh, thank
On
God.
one hand, they are loathsome, repugnant monstrosities that delight in the misery and suffering of others. Yet, on the other hand, they are elegant and beautiful, glamorous patrons that bestow upon the faithful every indulgence they could possibly imagine. To witness a Keeper of Secrets is to witness the totality of
Keeper of
beauty and
Secrets.
revulsion in a
Here
singular
we go.
reality-defying entity, as
What
everything
kind
about
of
them
appendage is
exemplifies their
this?
conflicted nature.
You
Their
serious?
towering, lithe bodies are an androgynous fusion of human and animal parts,
What?
a sensual combination of additional
is
appendages
crazy.
and claws, all wrapped in scintillating clothing woven from the finest of materials. Their powerful muscular form is coated in balms and scented oils, as well as jewels of impossible worth that accentuate its hypnotic movements. The mind-altering musks they generate, although difficult to describe, are said to smell like a combination of the world's most illustrious perfume mixed
Oh.
with rotting meat. To witness
Oh.
such a creature is to simultaneously experience fear and joy, despair and hope, revulsion and arousal,
I see.
suffering
That's
and
a-
pleasure. Emotions that the
That's exactly how I felt because first I was looking at the legs slash hooves and I was like, yo, that's kind of sexy. Then we got to the upper body and I was like, yo, I think that's a man, right? So never mind. But that man is sexy. But I know they don't even have, I'm going to assume that they don't really have a sex. They just are.
Keeper of Secrets
And that's
delights
just how
in
we
forcing
perceive
upon
them.
mortals. To simply stand in their presence is
Look
to
at this
surrender
shit.
the entirety of one's self-will. It doesn't matter how disciplined they are. It doesn't matter how much they pride themselves on their ability to resist temptation. To the Keeper of Secrets, all is laid bare. Every thought,
I
every
gotta see that
desire,
face.
every hope and wish that they have ever experienced exists
four
as
biddies?
ammunition the creature
God
can use to
dang.
manipulate
Nah,
and
I
dominate
would.
its foes
I
by
would.
infecting their mind with whispered promises that are impossible to resist.
I would.
Their
It's
ability
just
to
so
manipulate
super
on a
epic.
grand scale is one of the most dangerous things about them, as none are immune to their ability to deceive and corrupt, and entire sectors
I'm
can
not
fall
immune.
under their influence.
Not
This
immune.
isn't to say that they aren't also a terrifying force upon the battlefield, as in addition to them being the masters of manipulation, they are also vicious and graceful killers that delight in the
Vicious and
sadistic
graceful
excess
killer.
of wanton violence. That being said, violence is only one part of the infinite spectrum of excess that Slaanesh delights in. Thus, the
Look.
Keepers of Secrets are only deployed in force when all else has failed. When
Oh.
the ignorant of mankind reject the pleasures of the Dark Prince, the Keepers of Secrets take to the battlefield to correct this misjudgment through great and terrible violence.
Thank you for
Violence
saving me
that will
from
be
Nurgle's
delivered in
people.
spectacular excess. They take a sickening pleasure in all forms of slaughter and torture, and are
Look at
like
this
twisted
whip.
artists that view the act of excruciatingly painful death dealing as a form of creative expression. When unleashed upon the battlefield, their sensual and delicate forms are at odds with their horrendously strong, blinding strikes that come out of nowhere at Quicksilver speed. They are ludicrously fast, faster perhaps than any of the other demons aligned to the ruinous powers. They tear across the battlefield, every strike so expertly delivered that it spills blood in a pleasing pattern, and spreads severed limbs across the field in the form of an exotic tapestry. They are sadistically cruel, monstrously powerful, and perhaps most terrifyingly of all, frighteningly intelligent.
I like
every act
this
they
group.
commit, every foe they maim,
I like
is
Khorne's group
part of
too.
the Keeper's grand orchestra of pain. a symphony of suffering, accentuated by the percussion of explosions and the crescendo of the agonized screams of their victims as they are torn limb from limb.
Wes, you ain't write this. Wes, I don't mean that in a condescending way. This is, I love the dialogue.
Aside from their remarkable skills as a physical combatant, they are also practitioners of the mystical arts. Their powers can be used to lead the weak to their doom, turn allies against each other, or unleash terrifying psychic agony across a wide area. There is nothing more seductive to the Keepers themselves than the corruption of warriors with particularly noble hearts, individuals that believe themselves incorruptible and are set on a path of discipline and virtue. To twist the heart of such a stoic individual and turn their quest for glory into a debased lusting for excess.
I'm trying to resist them. I just started reading the Daily Stoic so I could turn myself into a better being, so I can rid myself of the influence of Slaanesh and her people, or his people, whatever.
Is like an irresistible drug to the Keepers. Thus, they will routinely seek out such men and women, sacrificing them to the perverted will of Slaanesh. Although it may be difficult to believe, it is said that the Keepers of Secrets and many of Slaanesh's demonic forces in general enjoy battle even more than the bloodthirsty warriors of Khorne. However, despite their shared appreciation for death-dealing, there does exist a bitter rivalry between the two gods and their forces. Slaanesh views Khorne as a brute that cannot appreciate the beauty of war, a simpleton that is too consumed with the act of slaughter that they are incapable of savoring the ecstasy of it. Khorne and his followers, on the other hand,
I actually love that because it reminds me of Europeans and Americans when it comes to food. You know, Americans, large quantity, just scoffing it down, really not. I'm an American myself, so it is what it is. Not taking the time to enjoy, I gotta show my girl, Momo, without taking the time to enjoy the flavor and just really marinating in the bites. But our European friends tend to have small portions and they really focus on the quality and enjoying their bites. Both groups of people love food. One approaches it with gluttony, the other one approaches it with, I don't know that word, but you get it. You get it. So I see it. This is America versus Europe. Europe.
despise Slaanesh.
I love my
Battle
Europeans.
is all
I'm
that
just
matters.
saying.
Killing is a purpose in and of itself, and to draw out the victim's suffering is nothing more than a roadblock to spilling more blood and taking more skulls.
Facts.
To us mortals, the act of wanton slaughter is obviously reprehensible, but we can at least understand why a demonic entity would delight in pursuing it. However, the strange esoteric objectives of the next demon on this list are utterly incomprehensible. To the followers of Tzeentch, sorcery, deception, and knowledge are some of the greatest tools in the galaxy, instruments that can be used to bring about change in all forms, from the subtle and personal to the cataclysmic and galaxy-defining. None better encapsulate the ideals of the Architect of Fate more so than his greater demons, the Lords of Change. Although, despite existing as repositories of forbidden lore and remarkable psychic ability, even they are nothing more than pawns in the infinite labyrinthian plots and schemes of their master. The nature of change is a fickle beast, and thus the Lords of Change can take on a variety of different forms, though they most often appear as lanky humanoid birds with long necks and extended limbs, with resplendent plumage. They are often draped in clothing reminiscent of what we would associate with wizards, mages, and high priests. And although their powerful limbs, claws, and beaks, as well as the sparkling blades they wield, make them no slouch in melee combat, the real power of the Lord of Change comes in the form of the magics that it is capable of wielding. They are sorcerers without equal, and wield the raw essence of chaos more expertly than even the most skilled assassins can wield a blade or firearm. Their sorcery can come in a lot of different forms, each more terrifying to behold than the last. On one hand, they may send forth billowing plumes of pink and blue warp fire that burn not only flesh, but the souls of their victims as well, twisting and contorting them into gibbering creatures of chaos. On the other hand, their magic may be far more subtle, sending out deceptive waves of psychic manipulation that induce feelings of dread, confusion, fear, or any other emotion that the Lord of Change wishes. They
Lord
are
of
the
Change.
masters of illusion and can trap the minds of their foes in an infinitely complex network of lies and deceit, rendering their physical form helpless to the encroaching hordes of Tzeentchian demons. With a few well-placed lies, a Lord of Change can manipulate mortals in its presence to reveal treasured secrets, betray their brothers, ignore ethics and laws, and, whether willingly or unwillingly, commit their life to doing the will of Tzeentch. They are by
Tzeentch.
far the most intelligent of all of the greater demons, and thus dedicate their immortal lives to collecting information, learning everything there is to know within the material and immaterial universe, to the point where they are effectively omniscient. Their intellect is so towering and oppressive that when they gaze upon mortals, they do not see their physical form, but see every moment in their life. Every hope and dream, every failure and success, every fear and ambition that the individual has ever experienced. It would be like if you had the ability to look at another person and then, just based on a quick assessment of their personality, physical appearance, and speech pattern, you would know everything about them, every step they have ever taken throughout their life that led them to this moment, every experience they ever had that made them who they are.
I like that.
To make eye contact with such an entity is to witness the entirety of the paradoxical nature and wisdom of Tzeentch. It is no wonder that few can exist under the gaze of such a creature without immediately having their mind fractured and their sanity eroded. And thus it is that the Lords of Change are so particularly dangerous, not just because of the psychic obliteration that they can unleash upon the battlefield, but in how unbelievably skilled they are when it comes to manipulation.
Look at the size of this.
Although to know the true nature of Tzeentch and his plans is an impossibly ludicrous notion, we can at least witness within his greater demons a desire to redirect the predictable course of history, to, in every possible scenario, direct the future down new and unexpected paths. The Lords of Change seem to have a deep loathing of the trappings of comfort, stability, and familiarity. Instead, whether on an individual scale or scaled up to that of an entire world, a Lord of Change seeks to break apart the foundations of the consistent, to destroy the enduring and eliminate all constants. They seek to obliterate worlds and build them up anew in a twisted mockery of the former. They seem to revel in dashing the hopes of the ambitious, while simultaneously raising the dregs of society to positions of ultimate authority. Because of the Lords of Change nature and Tzeentch in general, it should come as no surprise that them and Nurgle do not get along. Nurgle and his followers believe in the cyclical nature of the universe, that everything that begins must end, everything that lives must die, and that every creature, big and small, has a predetermined role to play in the inevitability of entropy. Tzeentch and his Lords of Change reject that notion, that there is no cycle, that life can go in any direction that it chooses, that there are no constants, and there is only change.
We got Khorne versus
This video
Slaanesh.
has had a pretty serious tone, and now that
Tzeentch
we've had a bit of time
Nurgle.
to learn a bit more about all
That
four
was
of the greater
serious?
demons,
Nah, it was
I
serious.
want to take a moment to kind of relax a bit and have a bit more of a casual discussion about one thing in particular that tends to pop up in Warhammer discussions pretty frequently. And that's quite simply, which one of these dudes is the strongest? Now, many Warhammer fans claim that it is the Bloodthirster, as the lore specifically tells us that at this moment in time, Khorne has seen a resurgence and is considered to be the most powerful god. Which makes sense when you think about it. Khorne's power is directly related to how much violence, hatred, wrath, and bloodshed exist in the universe at any given moment. And in the grimdark future where there is only war, violence is not in short supply. However, we also know two important things. One is that all of the gods at one point or another have been considered the strongest, as their influence ebbs and flows. And two, time is a meaningless concept to the gods, for they have always existed and never existed simultaneously. Meaning, in a bit of a macro perspective, they are always existing simultaneously at their strongest and weakest point. All four of the greater demons are fully capable of doing what their siblings do, just in different ways. Like when it comes to their ability to corrupt, Tzeentch is often considered to be the master manipulator.
Okay.
But Slaanesh is equally skilled in this department. Their deception just takes on different forms.
Oh, that makes sense.
One a bit more horny than the other. Nurgle spreads his corruption through his diseases, and considering the virulent nature of pathogens, it's a foregone conclusion that such corruption will have no trouble spreading from person to person, or from world
it's
to
all
world,
about how
or
you
sector
view
to
it.
sector. Khorne's corruption functions in the exact same manner. It's just not
They-
as
their-
obvious.
their corruption
The hatred
follows a
is
genre.
a disease. It is a sickness of the mind and the soul, and it is profoundly contagious. It spreads on a personal scale from individual to individual, or on a grand scale through radio, vox, pic feeds, or if we want to use a real-world example, even our social media feeds. It mimics how a disease becomes a
Khorne.
pandemic when it mutates to
Khorne.
infect water supplies or
Wow.
become airborne.
Wow.
I mean, honestly,
I don't
anyone
know
who
why I
spent
got
even
so
a minute
amazed.
on the internet over the last
Yes.
5 years
No,
should
Wes
be
is
well
spitting.
aware of just how easy it is for rage to transmit
Yes.
across channels.
Yes.
When it comes to physical combat, however, a Bloodthirster may be the physically strongest and able to inflict the most damage with a single swing of their blade, but the Great Unclean One can tank more damage than any of the other greater demons, and fights with plagues and diseases in a war of attrition.
War of
Meanwhile,
attrition.
the Keeper of Secrets can run
Keeper
circles
of
around
Secrets.
all of the other ones, while the Lord of Change fights primarily with magic. And when it comes to magic, if I'm being honest with you, it's as powerful as the author needs it to be for any particular story.
That makes
I
sense.
personally think any attempt to rank them is ultimately meaningless, as their positive and negative traits combine together to come to a sum of 0. It may not be the most accurate way of looking at things, but I've always kind of thought of the greater demons in terms of RPG characters. You've got your tank, your fighter, your rogue, and your caster. No one combatant in the arena match is objectively superior. They all have different strengths and weaknesses. One may rise to the top at one point or another, but then those patch notes come in and the meta shifts and everyone respecs or re-rolls. By this simple analogy I've laid out, I believe that the true threat is when the need arises for all of these demons to unite together, to set aside their hatred for one another and focus on a singular objective
Look at
of
it. This guy has a
destruction.
head up.
Anyone who's ever fought a raid boss before knows you're not going to do it with a doom stack of rogues or fighters. You need a balanced team. I honestly
Right.
don't think it's a controversial statement to say that Chaos Undivided is substantially more dangerous than any of the gods acting on their own.
Chaos
Four ruinous powers
Undivided.
uniting against a common enemy and a full party of greater demons assembling is apocalypse given form.
Yes.
But what do you think of all this? Which one of the greater demons is your favorite and why? Do you disagree with my statement that they are all equal? Or do you think one of the demons and their patron god is distinctively more powerful than the others? Let me know all of your thoughts and questions in the comment section down below. I read just about every single one of them, and I try to answer as many of them as I can. I always get the best suggestions from you guys on stuff that I should read into, as although I spend pretty much every day of my life reading Warhammer books, I'm still learning new things each and every day. Anyways, big thanks to everyone who supports the work that I do, and I will catch you all in the next one.
I also spend a great deal of my time reading comments. I just don't always respond. It's too much. As I guys pointed out to you guys earlier. Oh, just dropped my revenue. It ain't much. Yeah, I just say, it ain't much, man. It ain't much. But I got a lot of channels, man. So I got jump between channels and try to keep track of things. That's why I say use the pinned comment to recommend things. Let's take a moment to guess who my favorite chaos god is. Pause. Write them the four of them in order. I'm gonna give you guys a moment. Four greater gods, chaos gods in order. All right. So my favorite is easily gonna be Slaanesh. I could actually, oddly enough, see myself falling to that particular group, even in real life in a strange way. But I'm not a bad person. Hear me out. Second is actually Khorne. Very easy. It's funny that the two that I like the most are at odds with each other. Next would be Tzeentch, and then next would be Nurgle, and I'll describe why. I like the Slaanesh group because they also like the war. They're strong, but they prioritize speed, but they're also strong. So that's gonna be my ideal thing. I definitely want to be in and out. I like that even though they like the violence, they'll try manipulating and they'll try the fun way. And when they do their violence, it's the art of it. Like they're the kind of people that would make a blood canvas and like paint a wall with the blood of their enemies and make a beautiful piece of art. That's the kind of stuff that the Slaanesh group would do. Very sadistic, really some sick shit. These people are sick, demented individuals. And unfortunately, I shouldn't say I relate. That's a wrong word because that implies too much. I find that more entertaining. Let's put it that way. Khorne's group, they're like to the point. It's actually exactly how they describe. They just go on the slaughter and they just move on to the next person. Oh my god. I can't believe I'm gonna describe this. Khorne's group would kill like 20 people. They're fine. Let me use animals. This is gonna be more comfortable with me saying animals. Insects. Let's use roaches. Let's use roaches. I feel very much less of a bad person saying that. Khorne's group would just slaughter a whole nest of roaches and just move on. Just move on. A homie like me, I would find this one roach. I want to pluck off one leg off the roach and kind of see what happens. Pluck a leg off, let the roach go, and kind of see the roach probably do like walk around in a circle because it's missing too much legs on one particular side and one is going. And I'm gonna wait for this roach to compensate and figure out how to walk in a straight line with legs missing on one side. And once it figures it out, I might pluck off the other two. And now it only has hind legs. And I'm just gonna see what happens. I might start poking it with some weighted needles and kind of watching this thing scoot across the ground just to see, you know what I mean? And with me, less roaches would actually die because I would spend my time on each individual roach, trying to figure out a different way for the love of the game. Corn's just out here going through, and it's like, yo, I remember when I used to eat popcorn with my homies when we were kids, and he would take the whole fistful of the popcorn. I'm like, yo, savor the popcorn, fam. Back to my Europeans, savor it. Enjoy it. Let's make this last. What are you in a rush for? But, every now and then you just want to get your quick fix, get a whole mouthful. Shout out to my homies Corn. And I like that Tzeentch is trying to change things and get rid of the unpredictable and get rid of the predictable aspects and just flip the order of things just for the love of the game. It's like, you know what? You're ambitious. You're expected to be nothing. So I'm gonna break the ambitious one and I'm gonna take the person who's expected to be nothing and turn that person into somebody great. I think that's actually exciting too. I'm less excited about the Tzeentch group because of their powers and the way they do things, manipulation, illusions. They feel like they're less hands-on to me, and I still want to be hands-on. But I like the message. Just screwing with the order of things just because I like the message. Nurgle's group, they just too disgusting. They make me want to vomit. I want nothing to do with them. Technically, I should be in Tzeentch's group just so I could body Nurgle and his people. I can't stand how disgusting the group is. It's beautifully disgusting. I understand, like, wow, this was epic, but I just can't rock with them. So that is it. I hope you guys liked what I had to say. You guys liked the content that we, reacted to. I got a whole bunch of tabs out. If you guys want to recommend content, as I said, use the pinned comment to do so.
Hey,
Oh dang, I forgot to do that on this video. Oh well. And then I got some more videos I told you I'm gonna check out.
in the
So I'm
Warhammer
listening to you guys, but every time this is a beauty. Every time you guys recommend something or I check out something and I enjoy it and I finish the video, the algorithm is learning, folks. So now it's gonna start recommending me stuff. The Mystery of the Demon King explained. Boom. It's gonna start recommending me stuff. So there's a certain point where y'all think you know me with all due respect, and then the algorithm like really, really knows me. I think you guys can understand that. Oh, I haven't watched a Bricky video in a while, so he finally has something that's interesting. Like, not like in a bad way. It doesn't show up in my algorithm very much. And I think the algorithm's gonna be figuring me out. So, I hope you guys appreciate that. It's gonna be y'all suggestions and me going with my own natural interests. I think if I'm following my own natural interests the most, ooh, major kill. If I follow my natural interest the most, the videos are gonna be most entertaining because it just is what it is. So we're gonna do a mix. But you guys see what I'm into, and I hope that you guys recommend accordingly. Until next time, more orc content is coming, more Warhammers coming, and I'm gonna keep posting as much as possible. If you guys could take the time to subscribe to this content, that will mean a lot to me, and that will enable me to produce more videos for you guys and get through this like at a more frequent pace. Until next time, I'm Yaboyrocklee. I'm out. And you know I couldn't stop at just one channel. Consider subscribing to the subsidiary channels for Yaboyrocklee found in the description of this video. Thank you.